decided to watch a Cuphead speedrun one time and then try to speedrun it myself. This should be okay, right? Now, one of the things that I think I should get out of the way first is that I have never actually played through all of Cuphead before. I have played through it a little bit with my brother, and I have also played it a little bit by myself, but I was never able to beat it on regular difficulty, which is why I decided to play on the simple difficulty. Now, unfortunately, you can't actually beat the game playing all the way through simple, because you need to collect all the soul contracts and stuff like that, but for this, I decided, hey, as long as we beat all the bosses, there is actually a simple category on speedrun.net, so I figured, why not go ahead and do this? So the first thing that we're doing is going through the tutorial because we need to get a total of 4 gold coins before we take on the first boss, and the first one's actually in the tutorial level. So after getting that gold coin, we make our way out, and then we talk to this guy who's sitting on like this bridge for whatever reason, and he just decides, since he's super nice, to go ahead and give us 3 gold coins, so thank you for that. After that, we make our way over to Pork Rinds where we buy the spread shot weapon upgrade, and then we can head into our first boss fight after equipping it. So the first bosses that we fight are these vegetable gardens. I don't really know what these characters are called or anything like that because I didn't really pay attention to their names, so I apologize for that, but these bosses aren't that hard at all. Now, basically all I'm doing is shooting the potato and then also the carrot with the spread shot because I think that that does the most damage, or at least that's what the guy was doing while he was speedrunning it. I did watch the world record run, and he finished in about 20 minutes, which was pretty crazy because I don't think that I'm going to get a time like that. So after shooting this guy with the spread shot a little bit more, I end up beating him and we didn't actually die. I'm a little bit surprised, but at the same time, you know, I'm pretty happy as well. Maybe this won't be as bad as I think. So after we beat the characters in the vegetable garden, we end up heading down to Ribby and Croaks. Now, Ribby and Croaks, I do know their name because I've watched the Cuphead show and I've seen Ben play through this game a bunch, and for some reason, Ribby and Croaks just always stuck out to me. But basically, my strategy here is the same. Just keep shooting these guys with the spread shot and dodge everything that they throw at us. For some reason, I think Ribby is the one in the back. He's shooting like these flaming bugs at us, and then the Croaks can just shoot these punches at us. It's very strange, but overall not too hard to dodge. And after fighting them for a little while, we do end up beating them, and yeah, that's 2 bosses down already and no deaths. So after defeating Ribby and Croaks, we head over to take down Legrand, and another reason why he sticks out to me is because Ben said in his last video where we speedran Cuphead on a mountain that Legrand was like the easiest boss, so I knew that if I didn't beat him on the first try or if I got a game over, I'd never hear the end of it from Easy Speezy, but yeah, I ended up beating him first try in less than a minute, so you can't say anything, Ben. I beat him. After Legrand, we end up making our way over to get the blueprints and then fight against this, I don't know what she is. She's kind of an airplane blimp lady. I have no idea what her name is, but this is actually where we're going to suffer a couple of deaths. Now, the reason I die on this level is because, first of all, I'm just not very good at the plane levels. I'm not exactly sure what about the plane levels is so difficult to me, but this cow, Bison, I don't know what that is. That thing that's like a lightning cloud cow is just absolutely ridiculous, and it hits me a bunch because I'm just not very good at dodging and I wasn't really paying attention. So yeah, after a couple of attempts, we do finally beat her, and overall, I feel like I could have done a little bit better, but hey, I'm just happy we beat her and we can move on. So now we move on to probably the level that gave me the most trouble in this speedrun, Cagney Carnation. Now, the reason why I know Cagney Carnation's name is because I had to fight this boss at least 10 times, and I know there's a ton of people out there who are probably like, how did you die so many times to Cagney Carnation? And honestly, I don't know why I had so much trouble with this boss. Like, looking at this boss, he doesn't seem all that difficult, but just those little things, like those seeds he plants on the ground which spawn enemies, and his awesome dance moves, and the boomerangs, and those little, like, seeds that he's launching at us. Everything about this boss just drives me absolutely insane. I couldn't beat him on simple for like 10 attempts, so we lost a ton of time on this level. Honestly, if I could, probably should have started over the run, but considering the challenges to watch through one time and then play through the speed run right afterwards, I figured I had to keep going, so yeah, I lost like 10 minutes on Cagney Carnation, and hopefully we don't run into any other bosses harder than that. But with Cagney Carnation finally defeated, we can head over to Inkwell Isle Part 2. Once we get to the second part of Inkwell Isle, we first go up against this balloon clown. I don't know what his name is either, but I do think that he's a pretty interesting boss. Basically, he rides around in his little roller coaster car, and then he has these ducks in the air, which for some reason cause me so much damage. And that's one of the themes in this challenge, is that it's not typically the boss that's going to be hurting me, it's the obstacles that are in the level. So the ducks, there's a couple more later on that I'm going to talk about, but yeah. So this guy took me like 3 or 4 attempts to beat, which was pretty ridiculous. I know he's not that difficult, he's just riding in this car, but he was tough. Give me a break. So basically my main strategy was just to use the pea shooter or whatever this is called to shoot at him, and then use the spread shot when he goes into his balloon form, save up my specials, and then once he gets to his final form, him riding the horse, I end up just trying to use as many special moves as I can, and if I can't, then I just use whatever weapons at my disposal at that point in time. So yeah, I finally took this guy down, and once again, lost some time, and at this point, I did notice that I was already over the time that it took the world record holder to beat the entire game, so yeah, feels bad, man. Next up, we have the Genie, and honestly, the Genie wasn't super bad. Once again, it was another plane level, but I only died on this level once because I made a lot of dumb mistakes. Now, once again, I don't blame this so much on me necessarily as just being in the plane. I mean, I'm not very good with the plane, and he wasn't too difficult overall. He was definitely challenging at some points, but yeah, after only a couple of attempts, we did end up beating this guy, and I'm pretty happy because I think we don't have a plane level for a little while. So now that we've finally beaten the Genie after a couple of attempts, we move on to the candy cake lady. I don't know her name once again, but this level also gave me so much trouble. There's 3 levels in this speedrun that gave me a ton of trouble. It was the first one, Cagney Carnation, it was this one, the Sweets Lady, and then it was the Honeybee in the third, and I'll explain the Honeybee one when we get there, but for this one of the reasons I was having so much trouble is because of those little guys that were running on the ground, those little jelly beans. As you play, after you get past the first stage of this boss, she starts sending out these little annoying jelly beans. And usually they're really good because you can counter them, or I can't remember exactly what the red spin is called. But you can go ahead and attack them with that, and then that helps build up your super. But every single time I was playing this level, I ended up getting hit by them, and those killed me more than the actual bosses. It drove me absolutely insane. It took a while to beat this boss, but after a lot of trying and a lot of just killing those little jelly beans, focusing more on them than the actual boss, I finally beat this level. After that, we move on to this bird who's in a birdhouse for some reason and attacking us. I thought that this level was pretty funny because I don't really understand why this bird owes the devil his soul, because I'm pretty sure that's what we're doing right now is we're going after all these guys to get their soul contracts to get back our souls or whatever, but it's just so funny. This bird is so ridiculous. I love his attacks. He might be my favorite boss in the entire game. I love everything about him, but yeah, he wasn't very hard at all. I ended up beating him first try, which was awesome. I think this is the only plane level that I won first try, so yay me. We beat this guy, and yeah, I will definitely play him again on regular because I want to see what else he does. After him, we have Dragon, and Dragon wasn't all that difficult. I did die one time on this level because of those little fireballs that are on his tongue in the, I think it's the 3rd stage of Dragon, but basically my strategy for fighting him was just stay as far back as possible, shoot the pea shooter, and then when he was like recovering after using a move forward and attack him with the spread shot to get as much damage as possible, and overall it worked pretty well. The second time I attempted this, I just had to make sure that I was focusing really hard on dodging all those little flames that were jumping up at me, so after I got the hang of that, Dragon went down pretty easily. Now usually I'd want to use or from what I've seen, like I said, I haven't made it to Dragon before, I'm pretty proud of myself. Now I know in Easy Speezy speedrun, he ended up using the lobber, which is a gun that's kind of like, you just shoot and then it lobs downwards, and I think that that probably would have been the right upgrade to use on this. However, I didn't have that available, so yeah, I just did what I could. After we beat Dragon, we finally get to move on to the 3rd stage, which is Inkwell Isle Part 3, and this first boss drove me absolutely insane. Like I said earlier, there were 3 bosses that really bothered me, and this was the last one. Now, it wasn't the Queen Bee herself, no. It was the security guard bee, because he would come out and all he does is fly back and forth menacingly. And for some reason, I couldn't dodge him because alongside flying back and forth menacingly, he also throws out these orbs which can shoot out these spikes and damage you, and you can't even parry them, the red ones, because if you jump, there's usually structures above you that you land on. It's just so annoying. Honestly, the security guard was the worst part of this entire speedrun, like for this part at least. And once we got to the actual Queen Bee, she was no problem at all. So after a major time loss from this level, we end up moving on, and I'm very happy to never go back. After Queen Bee, we move on to this pirate guy. I always just called him Pirate Pete when I was like, I'm just gonna be honest, I was just calling him Pirate Pete as I was yelling at him. I'm like, dang you, Pirate Pete. He's just an awful boss, and it's not even because of him. The reason I don't like this level is because of those little sea dogs that jump out, and also the boat that's alive and shoots cannonballs out of his mouth. You have to focus on so many things at once in this level that it made it a little difficult, but it's also pretty easy once you get the hang of it. I think it only took me 2 tries to beat this all the way through, so yeah. Pirate Pete wasn't too bad. I feel like he'd be way worse on regular mode, so I will not be trying that anytime soon. After Pirate Pete, we move on to our final plane level, and it's versus this Mermaid Siren. I don't really know what exactly she is, but at this point we are at the 1 hour mark, and I'm so sad because I keep thinking, man, it only took this guy 20 minutes to beat this, and I'm already at an hour. Now, this boss wasn't too difficult in her first couple of stages. However, once she gets to the last one with the electric eels, that's where things really ramped up. The reason why it got so much more difficult was because the electric eels would shoot out electric little balls at you, and there would be so many at once that you'd have to focus and dodge. So she wasn't the big problem, the electric eels were. So I died a couple of times at this level, unfortunately, but after a while, I finally ended up beating it, and yeah, I'm glad that was the last plane level. So after her, we move on to this play with this woman who I assume is like a bride-to-be or something like that, because her husband, I think, is like dancing in the background and looking really nervous. I don't think he's really happy that we're fighting against his wife right now and he can't do anything about it, but yeah, she just, for some reason, she owes the devil her soul, so we have to get it back for him. Now, this boss fight, the first stage wasn't too bad. The second stage was the most annoying because you have a stage where there's a baby throwing glass bottles out the window, the mom is throwing little mouse toys at you, and there's just so much to dodge around there. It's just a very strange level, but after a bunch of attempts, I finally did end up beating it, and then we moved on to the third stage, which was pretty easy. All you have to do is hit her while she's frozen as like a picture or something. I think she might have actually died in this play, like, because she was an angel at one point after we beat her, so I'm not sure if Cuphead did end up killing her or not, but yeah, it was pretty fun. I do like this level. I thought the husband in the background was absolutely hilarious, and I wouldn't mind playing this one again on regular later. And then we have the final boss, which is the ghost, and the first 2 stages are nothing special at all. There's this light blue ghost at first, which all you have to do is sit there and shoot your original gun at him. And then for the second stage, you were fighting against this skull where his head pops out of one part and then his 2 arms pop out of the other. No issue at all. But then you move on to the third part, and I actually died here a couple of times because for some reason, these ghosts shoot lightning out of their mouth, and it just really strange. So I started there with 3 HP. I ended up dying a couple of times, and I had to play all over again because this is the last stage, so I had to focus. And after a while, I did end up beating them, and that is going to be time after we beat them, because obviously you can't go to the end of the game if you're playing on simple. So our time was 1:17:49, about an hour over what the world record holder has. And now I figured, just for fun, we'd go ahead and take a look at how many times I've died. So all you have to do is walk over to this pool with this weird looking guy in there, and he tells you how many times you died. And in this speedrun, I died a total of 37 times, which is 37 more times than I should have died, but considering this is my first full playthrough on simple mode, hey, I'm pretty happy. I'll take it. Anyways, like and subscribe if you enjoyed.